All right, we're back. Man, does it feel good to say that. If you watched our last video, you're probably not anticipating anything here on this channel or the podcast, but I'm extremely excited to say it's back. There was one comment thread that was really positive saying we hope the content continues, and that is going to happen. I'm sure you have questions about Whitetail Cribs. What's next? What does this mean? We're going to get into all the details right now. Hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go.
Alrighty. How's it going?
It's going well, brother. How are you?
It's coughing up a lung, but I'm good.
You got two of them, so you don't need both of them.
Yeah, I'll keep both for now, but I'd be really, really winded walking anywhere if you only had one. But, well, no, man, this is, I want to say probably a little surreal. Cameron's going to be part of the back leg of this conversation too. But when we recorded that last episode, I truthfully thought I never would post another video on this channel. And so where are you at? Everyone, I'm sure I was at the Iowa Classic. I've had people, what's Chad up to? What's Chad up to? What's Chad up to? So I figured, hey, here's your opportunity to say, hey, this is what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I do have some things going on. I'm just kind of working in silence right now. I would suspect here in another month or two, I'll be more forward facing with what I have going on. But I'm doing well. This is the best. I recorded with Clint Campbell maybe a month or so ago, and this is the best that I felt like personally in a long time. So I'm doing good. I'm doing well.
That's excellent. I would say I definitely personally feel like quite a bit of weight off some shoulders and a little bit more chip to my step, and just the sky's a little more blue, the grass a little more green across the board as well. So I'm sure
good.
Sounds like you're experiencing that as well.
Yeah, man. I'm, with the way that things closed down, with Exodus, and we started to sell the digital assets off. I am so thankful that you ended up with them. I mean, at the end of the day, we had to sell them to get the business dissolved, I guess. But there was a little bit of remorse, regret, or whatever inside of me, knowing that it was going to end up in somebody's hands that wasn't going to be successful with it. And I think, we've, outside of Exodus, just on the media vertical of the business, like there's so much blood, sweat, tears, enjoyment that went into that to make the YouTube channel and the podcast and everything what it was. Like, I'm glad to see it end up in your hands, I guess.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad I had the opportunity. Like I said, I wasn't planning on it, honestly.
No,
I wasn't at all. And then it's like, I know we sold the social channels, and I was like, gosh dang it. I was so pissed I didn't do that. Yeah. I tried buying them back. But yeah, just completely out of left field. I mean, kind of a similar process to you of like, what's next now? You work on whatever project for a super long time, and it's like a true new leaf. And it's like, all right, well, now what? And I just remember I was like, man, I should buy that. I should buy it back and just keep doing it. And I'm super thankful and grateful to have the opportunity to do it. I'm glad I had the chance to do it. And hopefully everyone else is too, because it's like it's like the classic we have. It's like the consumer feedback. They said they wanted the content, so I really hope they do, because they're getting it.
Yeah, no doubt. I was at a couple social events, like multiple social events in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I've had multiple people like just recognize me from whatever that weren't customers and said, man, like, when is the podcast and the YouTube channel and stuff coming back? I was just like, take a breath, give it a couple weeks. So I gave them the backstory a little bit, but they were excited.
Is there anything else you can think of on the past Exodus side of things? I mean, I just kind of want to put a bow on that whole. I mean, this is a new entity. I bought it. Exodus is dissolved. Like, I just want to make it really clear for everyone listening. But is there anything that you want to put a bow on for the last 10 years of your life with Exodus that we didn't cover in that last episode?
Well, I think obviously some people listening to this are going to be previous customers. So I think where it sits now, like, all those 4K orders were refunded, all the data plans are now refunded and shut off, and like it is officially done. Mm-hmm. But one thing that like hit me really hard in some of the self-reflection that I've had. I was in a leadership conference. Trying to think when this was. I guess it was sometime in February. I was at a leadership conference, and it was more of like a biz dev event, but it was based around leadership. And there was a message inside of the speaking engagement that kind of hit me pretty hard, and it was like, we've always told ourselves through the journey of Exodus, like, we did it the best we could do it, right? And like, other people would tell us that, and we would tell ourselves that. And it was like, we got to a point where it was like, man, if anybody else was trying to operate this business in like some of the circumstances that we had, like, they wouldn't have lasted as long as us. They wouldn't have had the success that we had, right? But inside that same message, it was like, if you want to be a leader in the space, you have to do it the best it can be done. If you answer, like, if you ask yourself that question and you say, yes, I'm doing it the best I could do it, but I'm not doing it the best it can be done, like, figure out what that gap is, the delta there, solve the problem, and and move forward. And I think that there were times that you talked about that, but maybe not like that direct or black and white. And you've always talked about being a whale, not a minnow, and different things there. But for whatever reason, that message just like slammed me in the face, like it was from Mike Tyson. It was like, damn, we did do it the best we could do it, but we didn't do it the best it could be done. And ultimately, like, those are some of the things that caused us to dissolve. So
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's really easy to go back and say, wish we would have done this, wish we would have done that.
Right.
I think there's some things we didn't follow our intuition on. And it was like, this is my opinion of like, well, we have to do that in order to do this. It was like, well, we need to do that then. And we didn't. And so it's easy to say that now. It's like, you got to play with the cards that you had. Everyone, I have no doubt everyone tried their very best, top to bottom. So it's like just one of those really, you just learn a lot of really hard and expensive lessons that you definitely will not forget. That's the one thing. There was no successful exit, no anything like that. But the exit is a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that I was just having a conversation. I think it was on Friday, and this was talking about like some of on the later days of Exodus. And he's like, dude, you got to deal with all of that. And I was like, well, we all did. And he's like, I've been in my career for X amount of years, and I've never had to deal with something like that. And another successful guy. So I just feel like maybe definitely really stunk throughout that period. But 10 years from now, it's like I don't want to say it's the good old days, but you look back on it and maybe you're like, oh, that was all worth it in its own sick way. It's kind of the only way I can try to make sense of it.
That's funny. Suffer well. Yeah.
That's I mean, happy to cover anything else here, but I just really kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to hop on here. Like, as far as I'm concerned, open invitation. That's for anyone that ever wore an Exodus hat. I mean, you started Exodus. I started as an intern. I'm grateful for the opportunity and runway you allowed me to grow my career. It was a really special opportunity, and so I'm grateful for that. And I'm excited to keep this part of the assets together and keep building what we had built previously.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we built a pretty high performing core group inside Exodus, and you were the cornerstone to get that team built. So I'll echo, thank you for the efforts, thank you for the mindset, thank you for all the hard work and making the brand what it was. So, but onward and upward. I'm excited to see what you have down the pipeline for this. Did you come up? What was the official name? Like, I know we talked a month or so ago, but we haven't talked since.
It is. So I'm glad you brought that up. It was really hard because when I was trying to come up with names, it just felt like every name I came up with, I just felt like I was copying someone else, or I really wasn't, but someone would make the argument of like, oh, it's just a knockoff of this or it's a knockoff of that. I'm a big SEO guy, so it's got to be SEO friendly. And so the grand unveiling here is WHTL shorthand Whitetail Podcast. WHTL. Super easy to find, super easy to type in. And I think it's a clean, simple name. So to add more words to it, let's go the opposite direction and make it more simple. So that's what we landed on. How much of a transition was it for you from like showing up to the Exodus office to showing up to a different job?
It is way different. I have to get dressed every day now. So I'm like, but this is of all the things that you can complain about, it's that for me. Like,
Well,
that's
that's
no
not
more
too bad
jeans.
though. Yeah.
No. So the position I took in the brand that we're building, um, I'm working underneath of a CEO that is extremely, extremely, extremely intelligent. Like, decades of experience with P&G. He's a very sharp guy, and I've already learned a crap ton in the 6 weeks that I guess it's been 6 weeks. I don't know, a month or 6 weeks that I've been there. So I'm excited to see what comes down the pipeline as we launch the brand that we're working on. But I guess the other transition is just like drive time. Like, I have a pretty good commute now. It's 60 miles one way. So like I'm losing almost 3 hours, and it's in the city, or it's in a bigger town. So I'm losing 3 hours a day in a
Yeah.
commute. So those are two bad things, but that's other than that, everything's
A
pretty.
lot of podcasts, a lot of podcasts on that commute, or ebooks or music.
Yeah, no. Yeah, in the morning podcast, and then I save the afternoon for calls. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what podcasts I've been listening to. The All In podcast.
Yeah, they're good.
Alex Hormozy. I've been listening to him a little bit. Sean Ryan stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a new podcast I really enjoy. I've sent it to a handful of folks. It's called Open Residency. There's only 4 or 5 episodes. But basically they do really deep dives on operators of businesses that have scaled to pretty high levels. And it's not the flashy conversations as well. It's like, what problems did you have to fix? How did you fix them? What biggest mistakes? It's a really good podcast. And I don't know if that would be applicable to what you have going on, but it's Open Residency.
Check it out.
The first episode was with a podcast that I've listened to forever, and it was really interesting to hear like his business background, because he's just kind of a talking head on the other one I listened to. But as far as I'm concerned, it's the best true business podcast out there. And there was one episode on there. It's a Mad Rabbit, and I found this somewhat. It was kind of tongue in cheek, kind of laughed at it. So these folks were on Shark Tank. They got an investment from Mark Cuban, and then they had to raise more capital. And this guy, so they were already on Shark Tank. They already got the stamp of seal from Mark Cuban, and they still got 500 no's to raise capital. And they ended up doing it.
Holy smokes.
But 500. And we had, 10 or 15. I was like, man, this is tough. And then I heard that and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know 500 people, but it's a little bit different. And I'm sure it's just the rabbit trail. One person leads into the next person. But I was just like amazed that they had 500 no's after Mark Cuban. So like on your pitch deck, you have, we were on Shark Tank. We took an investment from Mark Cuban, and still 500 no's.
Wow. Dude, that's resiliency. I don't know what that is. Like,
it's
golly.
Nuts. Yeah, it's nuts. So that's I encourage. It's a really good show. Well, excellent, man. I'm happy for it. I'm glad things are transitioning. And I mean, I'm thankful for the fact I said this with Cameron too. It's like a lot of times when this stuff goes down, I feel, especially in the industry, people almost hope that there's all sorts of bad blood, or like there's this thing like, oh, they don't even talk to each other anymore. I feel like that's I do. People love drama. And I'm thankful that everyone internally at Exodus is still on talking terms. I mean, at least
why wouldn't we be? I don't like. I guess I don't get the bad blood thing. Like, I guess we're all. I don't know. That's so weird. I mean, people are interesting, man. It's like, I think collectively, like, we're just all too busy and all too focused and driven to to even think about that. Like, I don't know. It's so weird.
I don't know. I've just had people fish, and they're like, well, how often do you talk to Chad? And I was like, we still stay in touch. Like, I don't call him every day on my way to work, but it's like, it wasn't really like that before then either. So I just wanted to, I'm just grateful for that. Because I just feel like that's people like to fabricate that to some degree. This has been a strange turn of events. This has been probably the most, I don't know, futile is the most descriptive word, but just a really strange, really last 3 or 4 months of my life, and your life too. And I didn't really anticipate that we'd be posting a video here, but we are. Welcome.
Yeah, this is somewhat surprising, but also like just feels right. It just feels right.
Yeah, and that's so obviously there's a lot of gaps we have to fill in here. And I want to make sure that we answer all the questions that are probably lingering in people's minds right now, and we'll get through all of that. Um, but I want to address you with your new position. So go ahead and tell us where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah, I am the marketing manager now for Hawke Optics. It's a optics company based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Rifle scopes, binoculars, rangefinders, whatever optics needs you have. That's what they're known for. They are glass guys, so it's pretty exciting. I'm basically what you did for Exodus for Hawke. So it's
That's cool.
a unique experience. It's a unique opportunity. Um, it's weird how things shook out, but I landed in a pretty good spot, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, and we'll get into more about what you're doing at Hawk, and I have some glass questions because I know whenever you dive in a new project, you go deep to figure out all the different things. So I'm excited to learn some more things about that. But obviously, this is the Whitetail YouTube channel, WHTL, and I guess diving right into it. When Exodus was closing, we were selling absolutely everything that had any form of tangible value, equipment, surplus inventory, camera gear. I mean, everything that wasn't attached to the wall, and maybe some stuff that was attached to the wall was for sale. And there was two comments that were really most prevalent, maybe three. One of them was, "We hope the content continues," and it is. Really excited about that. The other thing was, we launched the Live 4K all the way back in January of 2024, and we addressed. I don't know how much we really addressed that project in the last episode, but the long and short of it, it never came to life, and we owed people money. The data plans, we owed people money, and internally at Exodus, we wanted to make sure we made everyone whole, and that means we had to sell everything. And so the YouTube channel and the podcast did have value, and it was for sale. And we had a buyer lined up. I think they would have done a really good job, but I think it was probably in December. They said letter of intent, they wanted to buy it, agreed on a price. And from December to February, we weren't able to get a deal done. And we owed people money. And that weighed really heavily on me. And I know it weighed heavily on everyone. And so throughout that process, you're already a Hawk. I'm figuring out what the heck I'm going to do with my life, honestly, and really just trying to figure out what is next. And I think it was a Monday, we'd do team calls every morning at 8 Central. I was sitting at my desk at like 7 o'clock. I was like, I should just buy back the channel. And I remember calling you and getting your insight and feedback. And I want to hear your perspective of that, because I'm that had to be a little bit of a left turn of, what are you talking about, Jake?
It was a little strange, but I mean, after all the feedback that we got, it was like, not that it was eye-opening is not the right word, because we knew that we were having an impact, but I think the impact was deeper than we thought it was. And there was some feedback that we even knew internally, like that it was actually true, but we maybe didn't admit to it. But there were people who were like, I've never bought a camera, but it's my favorite content in the space. I hope you guys just continue doing the content. And it was like, well, when you think about it, you're like, well, we need the sales of the camera to support the
What we're doing.
content. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that easy to just continue doing the content, because it's not like Exodus's content strategy was just put a podcast out, release an episode once a week, and go about doing everything else. Like, my full-time job was content creation. So
Mhm.
like, you're 40 hours plus a week just doing
Plus.
this. There's like, well, how are you going to support that? Right. Like, you got to have camera sales. The YouTube ad revenue is not enough to just say, okay, we're going to keep doing this. So, I knew that it was something that was like, we should do or continue to do. And I missed it when we weren't doing it. I was like, man, I'm like going checking the YouTube comments and stuff every day still. And I'm like, man, I just miss doing that. And when you called me, I was like, didn't expect that. Really thought that it was like, whatever we did, that was the end. And it was just like, I'm sure we're going to end up doing something else down the road. And maybe that's individually, or maybe that's back together. But I didn't expect the the curveball that you threw there, but I was like, dude, it makes a ton of sense. It's like when we were going through all the stuff towards the end with Exodus, like the people were telling us what they wanted us to do. And it was like the same thing here. It's like all the customers and all the people, the audience, they were like, keep doing the content. It's like, okay, well, you got to figure out a way to do that. And you did it.
Yeah, it was. I was interviewing at a handful of different companies within the space, and really grateful for those conversations and potential opportunities. And I've been self-employed ever since I graduated college, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I ultimately just wanted to continue doing my own thing. And a big part of it was going through a pretty massive public failure is awkward. It's massively awkward. Something I've never had to deal with. And you start to wonder, will brands even want to work with this platform anymore?
Yeah.
And you were, I was like, would Hawke have any interest? Like almost tongue in cheek. And you're like, yeah, man, let's do it. And that got the ball rolling. And I made a couple phone calls later in that throughout the day. And it was just like, yeah, man, absolutely. Love to hear that. So happy for you. What a great chance to continue that. And really in the last month have really cobbled together a really good game plan that makes it worthwhile from an investment. Because I mean, I'm not going to say how much it was, but it was a lot of money because I had to match the other offer, which was fair. And we gave the other offer, I think it was 24 or 48 hours of like, okay, you've had a lot of time here. We have to move forward. And there's like, yeah, we just can't make it happen. So then I was up to bat, and I had some heartburn when I finished paying for that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's commendable. Our audience and our customers and everything, like somehow we had to come up with the money. And it was like, we could have this on the market for X amount of time, and who knows if it'll sell or when it'll sell and when people will get their money back. So
Yeah.
we're kind of at a time crunch, and I think it's the right. Well, I know it's the right move. I know everyone, all the support, even since you were like, okay, we're gonna relaunch this thing, and I'll get random people messaging me and like, hey, what are you guys gonna do? You know, like, and I'm like so happy to say like, yeah, Jake is gonna continue it on, and we're gonna keep rocking.
Yeah, well, not only just me, you're gonna have involvement. There's gonna be, there's an open invitation to anyone that wore an Exodus hat at any time. That's partners, personnel across the board. Like I really believe that the team effect is what made Exodus what it was, and so I want to make that really clear that it's not just going to be me. It's going to be a team effort on the back end, the front end, across the board. And I mean, it took a small village to do what we did, and I want to keep that in place and keep that magic happening. And I think it's just a strange turn of events because I like when we were done, we were done, and even to the point of we sold the Instagram page, the Facebook page, the TikTok page. And if I would have known that I was buying these, I definitely would have made a competitive offer with that. So we have new socials, brand new, zero followers, and it's just WHTL Deer across the board. We're thankful that all those handles were available. So I tried buying back those platforms. I said, hey, I know you bought it for this. I'd be happy to pay you within reason more than what you bought it for. And I got a big fat no. So
Yeah.
we had to start from scratch here, which is okay.
Sure.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how deep the audience is.
Yeah, I think the YouTube in the podcast is where I think there's the most depth with conversations like this. And I mean, I've built a lot of different social pages throughout, I guess, like my short career. And I think the podcast and YouTube channel is where I have the most passion. So that makes the most sense to retain these. But so I'm sure there's some questions right now. One of them, and I still get this whenever I was at the Iowa Deer Classic, it came up in conversation a couple times, like, are you guys going to do Whitetail Cribs? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely. And I think with it not being associated to a brand, a manufacturing brand, it opens up the doors of a lot of guests that had expressed interest in the past, but from a conflict of interest, they couldn't do it. So I want your perspective on Whitetail Cribs coming back, and what you think might be how do we make it better? Because it
Well,
was a staple, man.
yeah, I mean, we, dude, the grueling aspect of like what we did for a few years for cribs, it's kind of unexplainable. Like, I think people realize that we did a lot of episodes, but may not have clicked that we did one a week for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Like 104 episodes for 2 years straight. And that wasn't like we filmed all those in 2019 and uploaded them in 2021. It's like I'm gonna film this on Friday and it has to air on Wednesday. So it's like you gotta get this thing back and edited and do that like just lived on the road. But it was, I mean, it's one of the favorite things I've ever done in my career. And I got to see and meet so many great people. But like you said, this not being associated with a brand opens up the biggest trophy rooms and the biggest collections that we couldn't penetrate just because there was that conflict of interest. Some people that we reached out to were like, we were able to still do that even though there was a conflict, but most of the top end trophy rooms that you're going to see, they're going to be associated with another trail camera company or an arrow company or something where it just didn't make sense. So I think we took a much needed break. Like it seemed like we kind of hit a stagnancy of like there's still a ton of loyal people that are like, where's the cribs, where's the cribs, where's the cribs, and people that would watch every single episode. But the luster kind of died off. We were having a hard time justifying all the time spent to do these things and the logistics to line them all up for X number of views that just wasn't where we needed to be. And you can see now on YouTube how the trophy room tours have kind of
Oh yeah.
just started filling place. There's a lot of people doing their own trophy room tours. There's a lot of other companies like doing these. And if you look at if those would have been a Whitetail Cribs episode in 2022 or 2021, the numbers that they're getting now to what they would have been then, it's like exponentially different. But now we have the freedom to do more with it because of the association's not there anymore. It's going to be exciting. I mean, the people, the list of people that like you're talking to film for this year is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I added you to a text thread of one of them that will be epic.
Yeah.
And like, I got a quick reply back, like, yeah, let's do it. And so,
Yeah, which was a no
yeah.
prior.
And now it's a yes.
Yep.
And it'll be epic. I mean, but the problem, the biggest problem with Whitetail Cribs is I'm waiting for my deer back.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I killed a giant this year. It'll have to be next year. Like, man, you're gonna kill a giant probably every year. So
Yep.
let's just do it. But that one I think will be worth the wait. So I don't want to tease that one for a 2025 upload, but it'll be likely 2026, and it'll be a really great one. I mean, I don't want to hype it up anymore, but there's this a whole Rolodex of what that is. And another interesting thing too, you mentioned about how other people have done similar styles to cribs on their own channel. And I've had conversations with a handful of folks who are like, well, I was just gonna do it on my own, but like you guys are the guys for it. I want you to do it. You guys have the platform for it. You guys know how to edit it. You know how to make it great. And that particular guest too it'll be a good one as well.
Do I know who that is?
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
All right. Is that the was he a podcast guest?
Yes, he was in September.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
people can figure it out. So that's what we have cooking. And I'm trying to think here of what other questions. I mean, one question I think I got yesterday was, are you guys going to continue to do products or anything like that? The answer is no. Running a product company is exceptionally hard. And we made a bunch of mistakes across the board collectively, and I am not ready for that. And I don't know if I will be ready for that anytime soon. But the media side of things and the education, the entertainment, and selfishly just the conversations that we get to have with different guests is something that I also missed of when not doing this for a while. It's just still doing the land podcast, but there's just just a different type of conversation, and I missed them. Because when you do it for so long, it's like, man, you've built up this knack and just natural curiosity, and to not fill that void is a little strange. And something I want to bring up too, obviously, I made a lot of calls to a lot of people that I really respected of going through this transition, and it was almost unanimous of you should do it.
people I really respected. Like, man, you guys have done this for however many years. You've built this. It'd be a shame for it just for all of it to completely go away. And so I'm really thankful for everyone that was really encouraging throughout that process too. Because man, I know it's just really hard to describe of what the emotions were throughout that whole entire process. I just recorded a podcast with the Prairie Farm podcast, and we were doing it here, and they're like, "What was that like?" And I was like, "You could try to describe it, but it's almost impossible to do so." And then on top of that, it was like, "When did you know it was done, like officially?" I was like, "When we were recording that podcast." Like
Yep.
that, we got the final nail in the coffin text message during
During.
that recording. And so it was just a total crazy time. So can you think of any other questions that I'm sure people have right now that we haven't addressed that's probably lingering in the back of their mind? Content's continuing, no products. Anything else you can think of?
I don't think so. It's basically business as usual on the content side. Land podcast rocks on. The Whitetail podcast takes the place of the Exodus podcast. I'm sure that it's just like you said, this is going to be episode 1 of the Whitetail podcast, but the string of Exodus podcasts from prior are not going away, correct?
Yeah, I bought the catalog. So I want to make this crystal clear. There is no association with Exodus Outdoor Gear LLC with this entity. I bought the catalog, completely new entity, bought all the content with that. So, but yeah, all those conversations are staying live. The videos on the channel are staying live, and we're just going to keep building on top of what already is in place.
Sure. I think one of the staples that we had in the content space, which maybe wasn't as sexy as everything else that we did, was just some sort of educational content. Like I feel like the mission statement of what Exodus was doesn't necessarily change all that much, but it's like it just takes the product side out of it. It's like we want people to become better hunters through what at the time was products and content, and now it's just through content. So
Yeah.
it's not just all like not actually like it's just business as usual.
Yeah, it's business, and how I've described it too is like it's all the fun parts of Exodus, minus the not so fun stuff. It's like that's the beauty of this, and yeah, I think the podcast itself. I think I have a couple of visions in evolving it too, which if you tune along and stick around, you'll see it all come to fruition. And I think that's the fun part of YouTube. I mean, even since I started, the podcast game, the YouTube game, the social platforms, all of it has changed so rapidly, just as fast as the trail camera space, but so rapidly on this side of things. And I think I've always enjoyed of what's the next form of content and what that may be. And I don't know what that is right now, but I'm excited for that because it will
Yeah.
change. Like that's
It's
the one
coming.
constant
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I think it's taken longer. Don't you think it's taken longer? Like it seemed like once the different channels kind of surfaced and became popular, like we've been kind of stagnant. I guess
Mhm.
TikTok
was shorts, and TikTok were the biggest disruptor. But even, I mean, TikTok started getting popular, what, in 2019?
Yeah, and Vine was like the TikTok prior to that. So that form of content was already something there.
Mhm.
It seems like we've been a little stagnant in like when you guys started Trail Cam Radio back in
Yeah.
whatever 2017,
2018.
2018,
Yeah.
we the message was like we're going to do this, but it's already saturated and we're already too late.
Which is a great point because I feel for anyone that's listening to this, like I don't want to discourage anyone from starting a product company if they have an idea. It was hard, but there's other people that have grown really successful businesses in our space that has started after Exodus. And I think that it also roots to land ownership of like, man, it's too saturated. Everything's too expensive now, but it just compounds and gets harder. And whatever you learn by trying it, whatever new comes out, you'll already be more polished and understand how to adapt faster. So I would just encourage anyone that feels like content is already too saturated. I think there's ways to penetrate the market. And I think the biggest thing is do things that you're interested in. I'll tell you this channel is not going to be
20 hunts a year channel.
Yeah.
So I don't have interest in that. Like I personally don't. If you want to film your hunts, Cameron, you're more than welcome to air them on here. But I personally will not be doing that.
My perspective on that might change. I used to say like, and maybe it was the wrong attitude to have, but I would go hunt, right? And I'd be like, this is my time away from a camera because this is my day job. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to work while I'm trying to hunt. But I miss, like, I'll go on a hunt and I won't have like anything to look back on. I'm like, man, I miss that part of it. Like what I was just telling someone last night in a podcast, the reason I got into filming was to like, and it was to cherish memories. And I started by filming weddings. And I was like, I am capturing that person, that they have that memory forever. And then I was like, well, what if I did that with hunts? Like I go on these hunts and I love it so much, so I film it and I can always cherish that memory. So when I would like go on these trips to Iowa and North Dakota, and like my memories now are trail camera pictures.
Yeah.
Because like I remember following that deer or targeting that deer, and like that's the extent of the memory that I have of it. There's no like video footage of actually being there and something to capture. No, there's like I can live in the moment how I've been and like just enjoy this while you have it and not have anything to look back on, or you could try to do both. But when you start filming your hunts, it starts to become something that's like you're not really living in the moment because you're just trying to get everything on film.
Yeah. I think I do plan on incorporating some of the painted arrow products because they're super simple. I have my old iPhone and I can just have that charged up and ready to go because they're even the deer I shot last year, both of them would have been like really cool memories to have. And it's like, man, I really wish I had that. But you know, you hunt 30 times and you kill $2 or whatever the ratio is. It's like, man, that's a lot to like haul a camera and like to have the right lens, like to do it on a high level. I feel takes a lot of the fun out of it. But if you just have a phone, I feel with how good they are, that might be a way to scratch that itch from just like preserving the memory.
I think so. They have some really unique pieces that'll make it easy. And knowing your personality and how I can imagine you are when hunting, like after you shoot a deer, I would kill to see footage like the Nebraska hunt that
Yeah.
is on the YouTube channel. Like the post shot reaction is gold, and to have that footage in the tree stand, man, that would be just to look back in like 30 years, just laugh at yourself for it's gonna
Or
be
later that day when you go back and watch it.
like that film, the North Dakota hunt that I had, like the first my first time out there, and I pull my bow back and try to adjust my face mask and let the bow down. Like that's something that unfortunately I'll never be able to forget because it's on YouTube.
Yeah, you should go read some comments in there. They're all, people are relentless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think even going back and watching some old podcasts or listening to an old podcast, or just even I go back and watch some of the old Whitetail Cribs too. And it's just really cool to have that all stored there for everyone. I'm trying to think of some other questions that people probably have, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll get back to you. I want to say all refunds have been processed. If for some reason or somehow you were missed, I know there was a couple orders from the Lift 4K that too much time had lapsed, and Shopify would not allow us to actually refund that. It was expired, so we sent people PayPal payments too. So if you were one of those people, we want to make sure we get you taken care of. So I want to make that really clear. Anything else? Otherwise, we can dive into Hawke.
No, I think that's it. I'm thankful for all those memories, and I'm glad you decided to make this decision to keep it going.
It'll be interesting. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good. So whenever I'm buying gear, you're the guy I ask because you do a lot more research than me. So you are my YouTube search algorithm of gear reviews, and you had the Deer Gear podcast. What are some things that you've worked some trade shows now too? What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you have to educate people on when it comes to buying a set of binos or a rangefinder? Of like for trail cameras, they're always like, what's trigger speed? What's the data plan? Like, what are some of the key questions that you get asked the most?
When you're thinking about binoculars specifically, it's something that I have fallen victim to, but it's just I think a lack of education. Same, it'd be like the Exodus model of like find a product that has a lack of education and exploit it. There's really no education on what you should be looking for out of a binocular, but it really goes by use case. And I'll focus on the whitetail market for this. People, it's the bigger is better myth or misconception or whatever. Everyone's like, our line of glass doesn't have a bunch of 12 by 50s, and there's none above that power range. So there's no like 15 power binoculars or anything above that, because you limit yourself more than you're actually helping. If you have a 10 powered binocular, so you have a 10 by 42 and an 8 by 42. The 10 power is the magnification level. So that first number is the magnification. When you're magnified further, just think about zooming into anything. Your field of view is decreased. So if you use like a camera lens and zoom in, all the light that you're able to gather diminishes because your field of view diminishes. So as you open up that field of view, you gather more light, and the more light you have, the crisper the image. So in a low light scenario, when whitetails are most active and you need your glass to perform, you don't want to have a high powered binocular. Even if the objective lens, like the by 42 or by 50, is larger, you're not going to get as much light transmission because it can only gather so much because of the field of view. So that's one of the biggest things I learned. Like if you're a whitetail guy, 8 powered binoculars are going to give you the best image possible. The field of view is the best, and it's really all you need in most hunting scenarios. That's probably the biggest one, and it also allows you to hold more steady if you have a wider field of view. Because if you think of like a traditional rangefinder, the reason a rangefinder is not a super powered image is because you can never hold it steady. You'd never be able to get an accurate range. Like if you go to range a deer and the deer's at 30 yards and there's some grass behind them, and you're on this super powered zoom and you move around when you click and you hit above that deer's back, not actually on the deer, you could miss your range by 10 yards. So with a wider field of view, you're able to hold it steadier and get more pinpoint accuracy. It's the same way with binoculars.
Yeah, one of the first pair of binoculars I bought were 10 by 50s for that exact reason. And then the next pair I bought were 8 by 32s after you learn a little bit more about that. One product I'm super excited to use is the laser range finding binoculars. I feel as a bow hunter and even a gun hunter, just amazing to have the ability to get enough magnification to identify the animal and also get the range all in seamless motion. Because all the time, my eyesight's bad. I'm supposed to wear glasses. I don't. So even if a deer is 40 yards away or 35 yards away and some thick stuff, I'm using my binoculars.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, well, all right, now what lane is he going to walk in? Okay, now I'm range finding. Then I'm pulling up my glass again. And there's just a bunch of movement. It's cumbersome. And I'm super excited to use those.
Yeah, I've always been geeked about the idea of that product. Like before I started working for an optics company, I was always like, man, that's like, it's as a minimalist, quote unquote, minimalist style guy, I'm always trying to eliminate pieces of
2 for
equipment,
1.
but you never really think about eliminating your rangefinder. You have to have that.
Yeah.
And you like, we always said like one of the biggest pieces of gear that you should have is binos in the woods. So now we're telling people you got to have 2 things, and you can get a laser range finding set of binoculars. And it's like, put your glass up. You okay? It's a shooter. How far is he? Put your glass down, shoot. You could also have your bow in your left hand, use the cam, and you can still have one-handed operation with your binoculars and range. Slide them into your harness or just put them down if you're not wearing a harness and pull your bow back and shoot. So it eliminates a ton of movement. It's a great equipment. And the Hawke one, we offer it in an 8 power. A lot of people don't offer an 8 powered laser range finding binocular, but we do that because you get the benefits of the wider field of view, more light, and you can hold it steadier.
Yeah, as soon as it showed up, I was messing around with it, and I was like, "This is how have I lived without this piece of gear?" Because dude, there was a couple hunts last year where I forgot my rangefinders or forgot my binoculars, and I felt naked. It was like I have to have my rangefinder, and I'm on Onyx,
Like, okay, I'm in this tree. I think that's the trail I tracked when I scouted this in the spring. That's the trail I walked. That's where I think he is. And it's like, okay, it's 25. Thankfully, I never had an opportunity when that happened.
Yeah.
But just eliminate that whole ordeal. And I know a lot of people forget the rangefinders, and I don't have the Bino Bivy where I have it in the side of it.
Yeah.
Always have my pocket. Usually I have it in a different pocket, and I'm like tapping myself down trying to find it. It's just I'm super excited.
Yeah.
'Cause
This is designed for you.
yeah, because I feel like if anyone that's been hunting long enough and they feel like they have all the gear they really need, and if you would have asked me that at the end of last year, I would have been like, no, I'm all set. I have everything that I need. But having that, I'm like really glad for
Yeah,
that.
it's a killer piece of equipment, and we didn't skimp on the glass in that. Like we were like, this is going to be the piece of equipment, so we put the top end glass inside of that. So it's it's great.
What's been the most interesting part about learning a new product category from trail cameras, arrows to now optics? It's kind of a hard pivot. Like it's a lot different than what was done previously.
Yeah, it's trying to figure out what people want in because as a marketing guy, it's like you're trying to figure out what people want and what people actually care about. And it was like in the Exodus world, we got to a point where the warranty no longer mattered. And um, you think about that, and I think back to we were probably going to eliminate that with the next couple
Mhm.
product lines. We were going to go away with that, and the warranty didn't matter until it's not there because like Hawke has the lifetime no fault warranty, didn't always have it, implemented
Mhm.
that, and it's like the number one question you get when someone's looking at a scope or something at a trade show is like, "What's the warranty?" And it's
Mhm.
like lifetime, whatever you want. If you were to say it wasn't lifetime,
They just kept
they'd
walking.
walk away because there's so many other people offering that. It's like in the trail camera space, they're like, okay, whatever, I'll just go buy
A new
more.
one. What's the
Yeah,
data plan?
yeah,
That's the question. Yeah.
yeah. So that's one, and then there's just like things that I've learned from Exodus and what like mistakes that we made and what we tried to do with like we somewhat tried to change consumer behavior. Now I'm just trying to figure out what consumer behavior is and answer to it. So
Mhm.
like the thing with the binoculars, I'm telling you that I'm gonna tell you 8x42 is the 8x32, whatever is gonna be a better binocular for you than a 10x50 or 12x50. If you want a 12x50, I'm gonna put it in your hand.
And see, yeah, yeah. It's always interesting. Just I've always been fascinated with consumer behavior as well, and it's always like even almost every conversation when it gets about hunting gear, I'm like, what do you use? Why'd you buy it? What's the reasoning? Because I'm always fascinated to understand why people pick what they do,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's just I think it's cool, or
Mhm.
I mean, and so that's pretty fascinating. I think that there's different subsections of the marketplace where there's 10% of guys that are going to do engineering level research to make their
Yeah.
decision, and then there's 90% of the people that will not. And
Yeah.
we would the arrow specifically, we went with the 10% engineers. And it's like you just live and learn.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about this specific role is that Hawk is it's very dealer focused. Like we want to support the dealers. The dealers are who get the product to the end consumer, and I have to learn a whole new aspect of like what retail behavior is like because I'm not a retail buyer. I don't
Mhm.
have enough faith, I guess, in the internet to tell me that a product is good enough for what I need. That like if I was listening to this podcast and it was someone else on the other line of this and it wasn't me, and I was looking for binoculars and someone was like, you know what, 8 power, but 8x42 is a better option for you than a 12x50 in a whitetail woods, and I trusted that guy. I'm like, all right, that's enough. I need to buy an 8x42. I don't need to go to a store, pick up a pair of 12x50s, pick up a pair of 8x42s. It's like, I like this one better. Like, I'm influenced enough by media that I can just make those purchases. The world is not like that. The world
Right.
is not like me. I'm a minority there. So, learning the retail side of things and how people make purchases and what they care about, that's been super interesting, and it's challenging, really.
But one of the things I listen to a bunch of business podcasts still, and this was even we were feeling it at in the Exodus days too. It's like I really feel like retail is making a resurgence,
Mhm.
and I think it's not necessarily because of consumer behavior. I think it's because of how challenging it is to convert customers online now, and I think brands are thinking, giving up 30 points, 40 points, and having a retailer buy a bunch of products, and I don't have to have increased conversion cost with Facebook ads, media ads across the board. And so I that seems to be across all industries where retail is getting a lot more attention. So I feel like that should be an exciting part of what you're doing to
Mhm.
get on that emergence of or reemergence of retail. Because 5 years ago, brick and mortar's dead. They're all going to turn into storage units. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, it's almost like COVID saved it because people were cooped up and couldn't go to stores, and
Yeah.
like you could see in-person events after COVID just take off, and it's like an in-person shopping experience just seems to be more popular than it was because you couldn't go anywhere.
Right. Yeah. People like to get out and do stuff after they bought a bunch of stuff online.
Yeah, and I guess for the optic space specifically, it's like you are able to look through it at a store and see like, okay, the glass is good,
Mhm.
or our catalog's pretty extensive. Like we have, I think, 130 different rifle scopes in the catalog, and it's like if you had all that in front of you, you could say, okay, well, I like this about this one. I don't like this about this one. Where if you're just looking online, you may not catch those nuanced things that are different that you may have preferred in a different, like the reticle choice or whatever you have. Like we have some caliber specific reticle things, and I get some feedback on the 350 Legend scope. It's a scope designed for a straight wall scope because all straight wall cartridges are ballistically basically the same. The so we have a straight wall scope, and it has your holdover points or ballistic drop compensation, the BDC points inside etched into the glass, and it's like
And
your zero
illuminated.
to yeah, they're illuminated, and that you 0 to 100, and you can shoot out to 300 yards with accurate aiming points.
Mhm.
And you would give it to some people in some markets, and they'd be like, "I'm never going to shoot 300 yards. Like, why do I want that?" So then you're just like, "Oh, well, we have this instead." But if you're shopping online, you're like, "Oh, they have this straight wall scope," and you think about it, you're like, "Well, that's not really what I want." Maybe you're not going to look through the rest of the catalog. You're just going to be like, "This is my option." You didn't
Right.
have the ability to look through something else. But um, I
When
think
I
that
when I
having
looked when I looked through that straight wall um, scope, when I opened it up and just looked through it, I was really surprised to see that it was illuminated, and I was really excited about that too because I think just even the looking through a scope, it's off just like my other for my muzzleloader that has illumination, and I feel like it just helps with confidence of making sure you're precisely where you need to be. And I need all the help I can get. So I was just excited. I was excited to see that. What's a tip for someone that's looking through? They're at a trade show, they're at a store, and they're there's 5 different brands lined up, and the lights in a trade show or the store are really bright, so it's very favorable conditions to look through a set of binoculars. Is there any tips to look through them to get a really good feel of like, oh yeah, this is gonna fit my budget and fit what I'm wanting? Like, is it good to look in the rafters and try to find a cobweb, a dust, a rivet, or something like that on a beam?
yeah, I always pick some type of in the trade show specifically. I always try to pick something out, and even in my house, I did this. Like, there's a telephone pole that has like a certain design, like there's something in it, and I would always look through the different pairs at those, and like you could see, is there like a weird reflection coming from it? There's a thing called chromatic aberration that is like the outside of the object that you're looking at is going to have some coloring. It's like a discoloring thing. Some glass is going to give you that chromatic aberration and some isn't, so that's something to look for. The focus range is something that's not really talked about. Like if you need to focus on something pretty close. Some binoculars, some rifle scopes or whatever don't parallax focus down that close. So If that is something you're thinking about, make sure you're looking for those types of things. But really, eye relief is a big thing. And pick something out and see, is it clear or not? And a lot of it is subjective. Like some people's eyes are going to see through certain glass differently. It's almost like a pair of glasses. It's like a prescription thing. It's not like there's people that'll look through something and be like, oh man, that's so clear. And then you give them one that's more clear, better glass. And like, I like the other one better. It's like, well, your eyes just preferred that. So
Interesting.
that is something that, like, look through multiple. If you get a pair, even if it's brand, like look through what that brand has to offer through all their levels of glass, because you might prefer a one over the other, and it's not all just price point driven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I'm super excited once again. Appreciate Hawke's involvement. Like I said, first brand to say, yeah, let's do it. So I want to really thank you and the team at Hawke. I'm very excited with the care package and really pleased with all of that. And I would ask people that made it this far if there's specific guests, specific things you'd like to see, any ideas. Would love to see it. And we already have a content calendar. We're already building out plans. So like all of this is in motion in a relatively quick fashion. And as we're recording this right now, there is no logo either. So we're finishing, like, all this is rapid. And I just made an arbitrary deadline about a week and a half ago because I was like, oh, like early March. And I was like, mid-March. And I'm like, all right, it's going to be March 25th. Period. Point blank. I don't care if it's Times New Roman WHTL. It's what it's going to be because I feel like sometimes you just got to do that. So really excited. And do you have anything else?
I had a funny thought when you were like, I'm happy that Hawke was able to come on board and support this. It would have been kind of messed up if I was like, you know what, it's not worth it.
Yeah, the work that
It's
we
like,
did is not
yeah,
worthwhile.
yeah, like everything that we built, and we always talked about how we think we built like such a reputable brand through the media. And if I'm like, you know what, I don't think it's gonna fit into Hawke's plan. It would have been pretty jacked up.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way. That would be pretty funny. Well, regardless, I'm really thankful and grateful, and I'm grateful that you want to have involvement with this. I mean, I feel like part of it was like, there's no way I can do all this by myself, and so recognize that Lucas, who helped edit a lot of stuff for the past for Exodus, he's helping out too. And like I said, anyone that wore an Exodus hat, period, point blank, always have an open invitation for this. Everyone helped build this, and I just want to reiterate that. But yeah, super grateful. If you would ask me December, whatever it was, if we would be doing this episode, I would say absolutely not, no way. But we are. So here we are.
Yeah, that was a roller coaster, man. That was something that you can't describe ever. You can never describe in words like what we went through, and it was certainly a roller coaster. But thankful for everything that you've done for me. I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in now if I didn't learn from you, and I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful for everything that Exodus did for me. It like catapulted me being able to follow my dreams, and yeah, it was super cool. It was like December 4th was my last day at
Official day.
Exodus. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like my last full day of Exodus, and I went hunting the morning after and killed the biggest buck of my life.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Yeah, let's run through that really quick because I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, that was like the final stamp. It was like, here, you don't have to suffer anymore, but like everything that you learned and everything you did through Exodus paid off for this moment here, because you just killed your biggest buck of your life.
Yeah,
It was cool.
yeah, it was an awesome deer, and it was you were hunting them basically throughout. Yeah, you have. Yeah, awesome deer. A shame he broke someone on the right side, but a big old deer with a bunch of character.
Yeah, I mean,
That's awesome. When I shot my muzzleloader buck, we were on conference calls until like 3:30, 3:45. And I would remember sitting on my couch. I'm like, it's wherever I go, I'm going to get there like 4:15. I don't even want to go. I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to go. And I
parked and I had standing soybeans. First, I hadn't hunted this where I planted the beans all year. And I'm sitting on the ground with my bog pod. Looks like probably a giant bald eagle on a telephone line, like just sticking out like a sore thumb. And I ended up shooting the deer I was in there after, which was like this kind of like, you know, a nice little captive, a really crappy and tumultuous fall.
Yeah, it was almost like the universe was telling us we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm like, and I'm sure everyone went through this. Like, even the other thing, like I want to bring up too, is like we had partners in this business too, and like I can't thank them enough for the support throughout all this time. We wouldn't have been able to do what we did without them. And I mean, they got the biggest haircut out of all of us, and I'm really grateful for them and just being on Exodus's side the whole time would have been really, it could have been really easy to not be like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so like I don't think we talked about it in the last episode, but I want to make that really clear that extremely grateful for them because they're excellent people. And I wish it would have ended differently. Sucks for all of us. But I am extremely grateful for them and like the entire team throughout the whole process. Cause I think if like when things like this happen, I feel obviously emotions are elevated for everyone, and everything is just maximized. And I feel like it could have been very easy for all of us to never talk to each other ever again, um, and that's ultimately not the case. So I am thankful for that, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, great. We'll go to Whitetail Deer on all social media platforms. Hopefully, we'll have a logo by the time this goes live, and you'll be able to easily find it. But thanks again for everyone. Thanks for all the comments. If it wasn't for all the comments saying I wish you guys would keep doing the content, probably wouldn't do this. I just got a message on Instagram yesterday that said, man, I'm really bummed that you're not posting any content on the YouTube channel. I used to watch everything. And I was like, well, good news. It's coming back live. And he's like, I'm so happy to hear that. So for people to take the time to reach out and say that, that's the reason we're doing this. So, and also with the brands that were willing to step in and make it to where it makes sense. So that is it. Hope you guys enjoy next week's episode.